masters. Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken cave.
This is the awesome recording studio where we're gonna record our album?
It's a studio. It says it on the door. It's official studio.
This is one of those lame karaoke things.
Okay, you wanna bail? Go ahead. You wanna walk away from your dreams? Or do you wanna come in here with me, like the Tenacious D I know, and change rock history?
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So this is gonna be one of the weirdest videos I have ever made. Knifewrench is playing his like mid-game fire golem build, but I have some problems with the gear. But let's talk about the pros that we see so far. First pro, it's a max golem build, which if you've been following my channel, you'd understand that max golem is the greatest build in the game, and anyone doing anything else is trolling you. They're probably making videos to make you not run the greatest build in the game, so prices are low. You know, they'll be tricking you with a throw barb or a poison necro like me, playing skeletons when clearly putting, 100 points into one skill tree for clay golems that attack slower than 1 second, or fire golems whose aura ticks once a second. Obviously, that's a great idea. Okay, clearly this is not an optimal build, guys. It'll never be an optimal build. But I do find I would like to experiment and make the max golem build as optimal as possible for mapping. I also disagree with the map he chose. Now, Bastion isn't bad for fire. That's not my issue with it. I wouldn't call it good either. I think he probably should have ran Ruins of Viz-Jun, but then Ruins of Viz-Jun has issues of well, as in it's a little more spread out. I think jungle maybe would be better, but it's a T2, and his gear, like I said, is a little wonky. So let's go into the key items, which he actually does have. He has an Infinity on the Merc. That's literally a prime item to make in PD2. Now, in PD2, you can easily accrue 10 high runes playing 1 hour a day for a month. Like, easily, guys. PD2 has player 5 drops. It's insane what that means for runes and gear and everything else. Infinity gives you Pierce on every element besides Poison, and is an item that will never... It basically just doesn't lose value. Now, am I saying you can sell it for full price? It's always hard to do that. But do I think it's always worth 2 bears? Yes. And do I think you could get close to 2 bears back? Let's just say close. Like, every other rune word loses more value probably than an Infinity. Beyond that, he has a Phoenix offhand. Now, that's not actually the best for snapshotting or just playing a Necromancer based around summons, or max golems, of course. But there is one big advantage about Phoenix, and that is the fact, not that it gives Pierce. Remember, summons don't get Pierce, okay? The only summon in the game that I know of that gets Pierce is Ravens. But what it does give you is Redemption. So as you've been noticing, he doesn't have to pot. He lets fire golems kill stuff, and then Phoenix will tick, and he will just go back up to full health and full mana. It's actually quite insane. Of course, he is going to be running lower resist. He is maxed out on the golem, so I'm not sure how many points in lower resist he has. I don't think it's that much. But what I think he's doing is he has a wand that gives some extra plus skills to lower resist. And hard points in the curses are not great, They are useful. I think it's always good, especially the more budget you are, the more you want to pump anything related to your build. But later on, you can kind of scale anything that scales with soft points without actually putting points into that skill itself. A little bit of a side note, that's just why Skeleton Mastery doesn't need to be maxed for skeleton-based builds, unless you're running all of them. But like if you're just running mages, if you're just running archers, especially. But mages are soft points damage from Skeleton Mastery. So you get 30 soft points with a pretty typical summon build. 20 points is only going to add 40% more ED, while if you have the 30, you've already got 60. So the diminishing returns add up pretty quickly. Besides the lower resist and the infinity for the pierce, mastery does work. And mastery also works at full effect. It's not half. I'm not sure how that confusion got there at some point. I think probably Rinrin and I had some sort of miscommunication between pierce and mastery. And like I obviously understood that pierce had been removed. And I think he thought I was still talking about pierce, which is why I said, oh, it's half. But no, they get full mastery. So that means in general, basically with most elemental-based builds, is you basically want to run mastery over plus skills. That's the general gist of things. Now, is it that simple? There's a diminishing return to mastery, just like there's a diminishing return to plus skills. Basically, there's a prime location you want to be at, but there's also a couple other items that are very important as well, which give you an additional source of mastery that affects the build entirely differently. One of those is Flickering Flame, that's on his Merc, and the other is Jin Slayer. Now, this is my issue with his kind of budget. It's not really budget, but it's like it's not optimal, and it's just because he hasn't been able to make a Dominion and things like that. Now, do I think a Dominion is optimal? Pretty hard to disagree with it because it's basically a 20% increase to damage, but the +7 wand is lit, and it also has 2 sockets, so it's like its swag is all fuck, and I get it if he wants to run it just for the swag factor because it's super swag. He shows it off at the end. But Jin Slayer gives you resist fire, and so does Flickering Flame. Now, if you stack Flickering Flame and Jin Slayer, they do stack, and they can actually give you, like, basically another 15 to 20% to your fire damage skills. And that is double dipped, guys. So that means if you have them on when you summon, boom, and if it's on when the fire golems are a live summon running around, they get it one more time. So basically, that amount of damage, you can't beat. This wand might be close because he's got 10% mastery in it, +7 skills. But it's basically like, if you're not going to play optimal, I feel like you should just play more budget. But the wand is swag, and actually, since it's +7, I bet it's not too far off. But, I mean, you could also put facets in the Jin Slayer, too, and kind of get some of that lost damage that this wand has. Other gear, you're basically looking for plus skills. Yes, facets work, too. So you could go with, like, a Bone Flame with 2 slockets. That would be solid. Obviously, your optimal piece of gear would be a Magic Helm or a Rare Helm, and then you would have 2 sockets on that as well. Chest, Trang's chest, guys, it's the best. K. Hoggins is fine too. Basically any +1 chest with 2 sockets, or 3 sockets, of course. The reason why +1 skills is still really important for this build is because Blood Warp, yes, summoners get a free Blood Warp really easily, but with a swap at all, you might miss it. So for instance, he has a Grave Palm on and an Arachnid Mesh for summoning and a Splendor, and then he changes it to gear to help buff his fire golems after that point, or the Phoenix for himself. So he's actually losing a lot of plus skills. Now his Merc actually has pretty good gear. Basically all of that is BIS. I mean, Laying Up Hands isn't, but it's a great piece of gloves. Some of the cores are a little off. There he's explaining about the Flickering Flame, which is why I think he just used Jins. That Ami is actually disgusting because it's +4 with 35 MF. And then some of the other problems, he doesn't have skill rings. Nature's Peace is good, but you really don't need it. And then basically I would change, as your gear got a little more optimal, I'd probably go more LCs and maybe actually just put some points in the Blood Warp, but then you're not playing Max Fire Golem. It is what it is, guys. Skelly King out. GG.
This is the greatest and best song in the world.
Tribute.
Come and play with us. Come and play with us, Daddy.